Upasana, if I can pin you down, you don't expect a rate cut in this policy. You only expect to see a slightly dovish stance. Do I get you right?
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay. So do you anticipate the softness in the oil prices to continue for longer, or do you think it's a short-term phenomenon? In which case, why is the governor so particular about retaining status quo?
At the moment, I think it's not just about oil prices. While oil prices are definitely, oil price decline has been definitely positive for India. And I do expect that oil prices should remain subdued, even if they were not to go down any further. I think they would stabilize around $65 to $70, and that itself is fairly positive for India. Besides that, I think there are a couple of other factors. One, for RBI not to act at the moment, they should probably wait for their first target to be achieved, which is a January 2016 target. Sorry, January 2015 target. And after that, they will also be done away with any noise surrounding the favorable base effect that we have been much talking about earlier. So I think once that is out, and for 1 or 2 more months, we do see where oil is headed towards. And at the same time, my official call at the moment is April policy cut, not even a February one. But of course, with the kind of decline in oil prices, and if this was to sustain even further, the likelihood of a February cut cannot be really ruled out. But I think fiscal, there are some concerns. So probably RBI would also want to wait for the budget before they really go ahead with any further action.
Except the fiscal concerns, we'll get to know about that by about February, whereas the budget is for the next year. As far as this year's fiscal deficit is concerned, does it really change things significantly? Because the government is going to get a huge bonus from the reduction in oil prices.
Well, I think diesel prices have already been deregulated. So the incremental impact because of that is not going to be any further. We've already seen the impact coming in, which is likely to be around 20 to 30,000 crore. But I do not really see any incremental positive impact coming in further from these levels. So what is important is that the disinvestment program really kicks off and it is really successful. Because without a successful disinvestment program, it would be very, very difficult for the finance minister to really meet his 4.1% target.
And what do you think are the implications of the easing of the gold import restrictions? Will there be a sharp uptick in legal gold imports?
Well, there could be possible increase in some kind of gold imports, but I think given that global gold prices are still subdued, it should at least not really result in overall dollar terms a spike in gold imports. At the same time, I think from fiscal side, like we were discussing, I think this should be positive in terms of import tariff revenues coming in. So that should be at least some providing some kind of a buffer for the government.
And as far as 10-year bond yields are concerned, do you expect the present softness to continue further into the future, especially after tomorrow's policy?
We'll have to wait for the policy, of course, but I believe that if the governor delivers as per the market expectations in terms of the tone, because there could be some kind of a negative surprise because to an extent some market participants are definitely pricing in a cut probably, and if that was true then some kind of a negative impact could be seen. We could see some upside to yields, but if the dovish tone is still maintained, then I think there is very limited upside to the 10-year yields. So to that extent, I think the 805 to 815 is the band where we should remain around those levels.
Okay. Ladies, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. TVS Motors dispatch numbers for the month of November have come out 2.2 lakhs, which means with each passing month, they're only gaining more and more market share, and the gain for TVS is coming on back of decline in Bajaj Auto's market share. So the story is very simple. TVS is becoming stronger and stronger, and Bajaj Auto is just losing market share, and that's largely because of the new launches they've done. So I'm going to mark the TVS stock 239 rupees. It was at 50 rupees 1 year ago, and if you really talk about an multi-bagger, I think on all counts, TVS Motor has been a super duper performer.
Absolutely. All right. Let's talk about the RBI norms that were announced, rather the draft norms and the final guidelines that were put out for small as well as payment banks. Remember, now as far the payment banks are concerned, the new RBI norms say that the promoter can form a joint venture with existing bank. Existing banks can also pick up stakes in that. And for the small banks, there is no restriction in terms of the area of operations. Corporate-led NBFCs, however, cannot apply for the same. So let's bring on board Vellayan Subbiah, who's the managing director at Chola Investment and Finance, who joins in to talk about what this means for the industry and specifically for him and for Chola ahead. Mr. Subbiah, great to have you with us as always. Now, post the norms have been finalized for payment as well as small banks. What is your sense in terms of, whether they are viable as a business proposition?
Yeah, good afternoon. So basically on the small bank side, obviously it's an area that we as a company don't qualify for, given that they've said that industrial houses will not be eligible to apply. On the payment bank side, though, what they've done on the small bank side does make it slightly more viable than it was before, right, by expanding and kind of diluting some of the criteria they had in the draft guidelines. On the payment bank side, there is interest, but it's definitely still going to be tough, given some of the requirements. But there is potential for highly innovative and technology-based business models to succeed on the payment bank side.
So, what are the chances that Chola Finance will soon become Chola Bank?
Well, actually, so the way it would work for a payments bank is that you would have a subsidiary that be a payments bank, and the NBFC would still continue. So if we're talking about payments banks, there is no indication that you have to convert the NBFC into a payments bank. If you're talking about us as a company converting into a full bank, we evaluated that earlier and chose not to do that.
So in terms of the opportunity then, it seems like you're more interested in the payment bank license than the small bank license. What's the sense that you're getting in terms of the opportunity for Chola here?
Yes, so definitely there's opportunity. We're evaluating it at this stage, and I do think that we should come to a final answer in about a month or so. What has been good with the new final guidelines is they've taken away the promoter dilution clause, which basically helps a fair bit, because previously there was a 26% within 12-year clause. That's been removed. They've also modified the leverage ratio, and another good thing they've done is in terms of the scope of activities, where they've indicated that payments banks will now be able to distribute other financial products, which means that payments banks can also now get some fee income, which would have been limited in the past. So I think these are all positive steps from the RBI's perspective. The overall models that evolve in payments banks are still to be seen. There are a couple of arbitrage-based models which will definitely evolve, and I think that would telecom operators and all that are definitely going to be interested. But for people like ourselves, we've got to think of fairly innovative models, which is what we're evaluating at this stage to see if it can make sense for us.
Well, and what about the compulsions? And when I say compulsions, SLR, CRR, the most dreaded words for a bank.
Yes. So basically, obviously, the challenge with that is that whatever you put in a CRR and SLR, the earnings are fixed. What they have done is given some flexibility in SLR, which wasn't there in the draft guidelines, which is a slight positive. But it's something that you actually begin to kind of model in when a payments bank starts looking at its business model. Which is why, again, I've said that traditional payments models, I don't think are going to work.
And, the payment bank license guidelines also says that you can form a JV with an existing bank. Are you in talks with anyone for doing that?
No, not at this stage. At this stage, we're still evaluating, whether we will go for it or not. So we've definitely not talked to anybody. And I don't think it'll be necessary initially to start as a JV, because I think it's depending on what people's models are, the JVs might be more relevant to people like telecom operators.
So you said you're evaluating this opportunity. When will you finally decide internally? By end of this year, or you would evaluate this opportunity for another quarter or so before you make up your mind?
Our belief is that we should have a sense by the end of this year.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time and glad you could join us. 8,600 on Nifty has been regained. Bulls are able to muster some strength, but TVS Motors 238 rupees, and it's just been a magnificent and a super duper outperformer. Prakash, TVS all the way.
Yes, TVS certainly is looking good to me. When I look at the chart, it tells me that I'm going further up. In fact, the reaction that we saw from levels 260 to 220 has got over. Up move has started again, stopped below the levels of 232. On the upside, where can it go? Possibly 250, 52 zones. Maybe higher there from there, but first target would be around 250 zones. TVS Motors.
All right, that's how you can trade on a TVS Motors, but we'll take a quick break then and be back with more on the other side.
नई रोशनी, नया विश्वास। पीसी जोला, नए जमाने के हीरे। नई रोशनी, नया विश्वास। पीसी जोला, नए जमाने के हीरे।
Aryan, we are flying to New York to visit your father.
It's a German airline.
You know Germans?
No. They're a bit different. Always serious. And their food.
Namaste.
Grandpa, we are in the wrong plane.
No. Everything is fine.
Non-stop you. Lufthansa.
The board has authorized you to execute trades and has decided to sell all our technology stocks and buy banks immediately. What are you doing?
Already done, no, sir.
How?
IIFL's lightning fast trading app, sir.
Trade online, offline, anytime, anywhere.
हाँ आता हूँ बस आधा घंटा चल
क्या हुआ?
डेंगू दीप्ति नीड्स ब्लड
ये मच्छर हर साल यही ड्रामा
खून चूस के ही छोड़ेंगे चलो अब एक मच्छर की वजह से तू अकेले ही 4 लोगों की जान बचाएगा
मतलब
देख जब तू ब्लड देगा तो प्लेटलेट्स दीप्ति की जान बचाएंगी और बाकी का खून और 3 लोगों के काम आएगा
तो हर 3 महीने के हिसाब से मैंने पिछले साल 1 दर्जन जान बचाई मेरे पैर पड़ चल लेट्स गो
जी हाँ आपके दिए गए ब्लड का सही इस्तेमाल हमारी जिम्मेदारी है 1 यूनिट ब्लड से प्लेटलेट प्लाज्मा जैसे अलग अलग कंपोनेंट्स 1 नहीं 4 जिंदगी बचा सकते हैं
हर 3 महीने में
मच्छर या ना मच्छर
रक्तदान करना है क्योंकि अच्छा लगता है
Presentations today. Can we do it?
Okay, done.
Hey Dad, I love you forever. Don't forget, we're in this together.
Now do what's important to you with the Samsung Galaxy Note 4.
कल्याण के बारे में सोच रही हो ना?
और तुम शोभा के बारे में सोच रहे हो?
Shobha is lovely.
I love Kalyan, but I just can't stop thinking about Mahesh and Amrit.
Baby, अब सबको चेकआउट करना बंद करो.
I think I've decided. I love Amrit.
Even I love Amrit.
Thank you.
99acres.com पे सारे ऑप्शंस चेकआउट नहीं करेंगे तो परफेक्ट घर पे सेटल कैसे करेंगे? 99acres.com सब देख लीजिए फिर घर लीजिए.
Business isn't just about getting a B school degree. It's not about playing it safe. It's not about age or experience. Today, business is about packing new ideas, breaking rules, and reaching new destinations. Carlton Luggage, the new face of business.
We have with us Mr. U.K. Sinha, Chairman SEBI. So firstly, thanks for sparing this time and congratulations for receiving the Business Reformer of the Year award. So how does it feel as a regulator receiving the award of Business Reformer? Your first thought?
You see, this is for the first time that any regulator has been given the reward for bringing about reforms in the country. And the important thing to note is that the role of a regulator in our whole political system, both in India and outside, is something on which more debate has to be started and conducted. We lie somewhere between the government and the entrepreneur. We are an